Hi, this is Michael William Denny of ThunderShamanism.com. So, today we are going to start a new video series about my most popular book. This is the second book that I ever self-published, and it's easily what's sold the most copies, and that is The Thunder Wizard Path. So, I wrote this, how long ago was it? 2008, 2009. And, this is this was me putting into print some major shifts that were happening with me. So let me talk to you about the name, Thunder Wizard. First off, I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with my work, where I've come from, my background. But as you know, I've spent my entire adult life researching, practicing, and teaching shamanic disciplines that have an unbroken connection into prehistory. So these are shamanic disciplines that start from prehistory into now. And I've studied, researched, practiced different paths from multiple parts of the world. And so that's my background going into this. And I got very, very interested in what I would call reconstruction, which is different from other reconstructionism, but my attempts to reconstruct a primal, shamanic, energetic, mystical discipline connected to my ancestral past. So that's where the name comes in, the Thunder Wizard Path. I've been what people could call a thunder shaman, a thunder wizard, whatever it is. I've been working with those kinds of powers, dealing with life force energy. Thunder is all about cleansing and transformation, and thunder is used in many disciplines all over the world for driving out negativity, for cleansing negativity, for exorcisms, for healing, but it's a dynamic transformation. And so this has been my experience not only in my life, but anybody who comes to me who wants to work with me, I already know that either consciously or unconsciously, these people are looking to be dynamically transformed. They want to face blocks within themselves. They want to face the challenge of transforming, the transformation from death and resurrection. And so nobody works with me without having that kind of intense transformation. And, just let me say, my experience is that it can be very challenging. And, even when I'm working with people, and sometimes in some, like for instance, the spirit fighting path, this is an internal martial art that is easily the most powerful energy work I've ever done, besides being an effective martial art. And I give people this warning ahead of time. I say, listen, here's what you're getting yourself into. When you start to do this, a lot of energy is going to come up, and it's going to feel really good at first, but then you're going to have to face all of your emotional illusions, and there may be a lot of pain associated with that, a lot of difficulty, a lot of fear, and you're going to have to face that. And people say, oh, yes, I've been doing blah, 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 and I've been doing this kind of work my whole life. And sure enough, every single time they get to that, and all the resistance comes up, and then people, balk and resist, and then part of my job is to help people work through their resistance. I wish I didn't have to all the time, but that's just the deal. When you work with the power of thunder, it's going to transform you. So, the word thunder in there is very central. I use the word wizard to describe, that was my attempt at trying to describe a traditional European shamanic connection. And that was one of the words that was used. And it's sad because some people give me a hard time about it, because, we've got Harry Potter, and we've got, movies and cartoons and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, what word do you use? What word does a person use to describe a European shaman other than wizard? So that's the reason why I chose that word, the Thunder Wizard Path. I've chosen to use the word shamanism now as the default word, and that's simply because that's the most readily recognized and understood word in the modern world for what it is that I'm talking about here. But anyway, we could go on and on and on. So that's why I chose the name Thunder Wizard Path. Um, and the background for this book was, when I wrote this, as I said, I was just coming into really getting into the nitty gritty of, I'd had huge personal experiences with ancestral powers, ancestral shamanic powers, the gods and goddesses and the powers of earth connected to my ancestral background. And so it was very exciting for me and very fulfilling on so many levels. I mean, I felt like my DNA was awakening, and so I was very aware that there was a visceral connection, that I was connecting to my ancestral, shamanic background. So I was totally clueless about, modern paganism and heathenism. I was totally clueless about it because I had looked into Celtic paganism and Celtic shamanism, as they called it, way back in the 80s, because at that time I was of the belief that I was of Celtic ancestry. And I got into it, and I did have some experiences, but I didn't relate to the mythology, the Celtic gods. I just didn't feel a connection. It was kind of weird because I was sure that I was Celtic, and so it was like, well, that's disappointing. And of course there was a lot of crazy New Age, weird, made-up nonsense, which I knew that's what it was because I'd been in paths that had an unbroken connection into prehistory, meaning they weren't something that had been concocted in recent times. They were based on energetic science. And so I knew the difference. I could feel the difference. And there was a lot of that New Agey stuff in some of the, the Celtic and the pagan and the Wiccan. Sorry, I hope I don't offend anybody, but that was my experience. And so I said, well, the European stuff is dead. And I threw it away. And I continued with the paths that worked, mainly Taoism, Hinduism, yogic practices, my African shamanic drumming. So I stayed with the stuff that worked, and so when was it? Probably almost 10 years ago. I started looking for other paths. I started wanting to expand my horizons, and there's a whole other story which I won't get into. But basically, I started looking into Siberian shamanism, which I had had a little bit of knowledge based on my experience, and I ran into a YouTube video of a guy, and this guy was a Native American college kid, and he was outside protesting a core shamanism retreat, which you probably heard me tell this story before, but core shamanism is, it's basically finding the core things that all shamanic practitioners use all over the world. And he was going off about white people stealing his culture and stealing his religion, and I got furious at that. And after realizing, when you get furious over somebody's opinion, there's something going on there. Obviously there was some insecurity with me in that. So I checked myself and I said, listen, why am I so mad? This is just some college kid. College kids always think they know everything. He happens to be Native American and he has some issues about white people and whatever, and he's projecting it onto this, which has nothing to do with him. And I asked myself, why am I so upset? And I realized that I agreed with him. I agreed with him that, not necessarily that core shamanism was stealing his religion, that's ridiculous, but I agreed with him that, white people had walked away from their ancestral connection. And I realized how angry I was and how embarrassed I was that I had to go to other cultures and, have to completely absorb their culture, that I was so embarrassed at my own culture because, for the past, 1,000 to 2,000 years, European culture has associated itself with Christianity. And at that point in my life, I was so disgusted with Christianity and with the Abrahamic religions in general and how destructive they were. The idea of that angry God who sits up in heaven. And, I like many of you, had come to realize that basis of thought process had caused so many problems: pollution, destruction of climate, global warming, slavery, just all kinds of stuff. And that's why the world looks at white people and goes, well, these soulless white people just gobbling up the world and destroying the world. And a lot of primitive cultures see us as demons. But that's why, is because we've been disconnected from our primal shamanic heritage for at least 1,000 years, depending on which part of Europe we're talking about. So that was my motivation, wanting to have that same kind of connection and do it from my own. I wanted to be authentic to myself. So that was the genesis behind all of this. And so I'm just giving you a background. This isn't in the book. I'm just, as I'm going to go through this series, I'm going to go through some of the chapters in the book, and I'm going to share with you my updated version, because there's been a lot of changes in my thought. I've changed position on a few different things. There's deeper understanding. There's been an evolution in my thinking. My experiences has increased. So I'm going to share that with you as we go into this book. So I'll just stop this one here for right now, and we'll just call this the introduction to the Thunder Wizard Path. So stay tuned for more. So by the way, I'm pushing a couple of different things which I find very important, and that's because I really want to give some practical, powerful tools to people. It's great to talk about this stuff, but I'm really all about action and about doing the work and really creating real power, real spiritual power. So the two most powerful things that I can suggest to you are celestial qigong. That is the most powerful energetic practice I've ever done in my life. And, I strongly recommend it if you're serious about, really getting true shamanic power. The second thing that I've been pushing for is apprenticeship. And let me just clear up some things. People don't know what apprenticeship means. Look, all that means is that you're going to be working with me 1 hour a week, ongoing. That's what you get. You get personal one-on-one instruction from me, either by phone, in person, or Skype. And what I have to teach is vast, and I can't do it all in books. And even in the stuff that I write in books, they're just the subjects are so deep. The only way to really, really learn this stuff is to be working with me on a one-on-one basis. So that's all that apprenticeship is. It's my desire to get this information out and to not just give you a bunch of books to intellectually read, but to give you real powerful tools, because it is my belief that the shamans are the ones who are going to change the earth. The earth needs some serious help, and society needs some serious help, and we need some warriors who have the power to use their intention and their energy to change things. So that's the idea behind apprenticeship. So if you're interested, I strongly recommend that you click on Celestial Qigong. There's a link down there for the Thunder Wizard Path. If you've never read it, go ahead and read it. It's got a lot of great stuff in there. And then I recommend apprenticeship. So with that, my friend, until we get to the next chapter in the book, the Thunder Wizard Path.